Hey, good morning, folks. Hope you guys are all healthy and safe out there. We've got some really exciting stuff coming up here. You guys will hear about in the next few weeks. But today I want to do a video, and this is going to be kind of a redo of a video I did like 5 years ago, which is carving small outset letters. And not much has changed, but I want to make it, back when we did that, Dad did the filming, I was in front of the camera, and the camera work wasn't near as good as the professional that we have now. So I want to go into that a little bit. This has to do with what happened when we were down in Texas. Mickey Sewell, related to me, and through our conversation realized that he wasn't grasping, because of my lack of information, my lack of description, he wasn't grasping what this whole buffer zone thing was all about and how I use them. So I've done a little layout of some universal letters on the top and Bookman letters on the bottom, and these are 1 inch tall letters. Now we have smaller ones than that, but these are a good example of small letters. I'm going to carve them outset, and the reason I use these two different ones, because this is obviously a condensed and this is obviously more of an expanded. So just because they're 1 inch tall, depending on the font, doesn't necessarily mean they'll be exactly the same on your depth or your width of cut. So you have to take into account what you are cutting. And if you're doing, these are layout letters, but if you're doing special kind of transfer method, oh, thank you, babe. Transfer method, and then that makes a difference too. So the original video that I did was number 168. I think it's 168. I wrote it quick. It's either 160 or 168. So go check that out and compare this to that. This one hopefully will be better. And then also this same rule applies whether you're cutting letters or whether you're cutting artwork. And it can be taken into account if you're cutting artwork as well. So check out the video number 413 where I cut the hummingbirds. And that was an outset, but I did a fat line around the hummingbirds and around the hearts with a 90-degree bit. And then video number 361 where I was cutting the hot rod inset and outset. So anyway, let's get into it. I don't want this to be long and drawn out. I've already talked too much. Let's get to cutting. So I've got the profile bit in, and I don't even have it set for a depth right now. I'm going to set it at about, I think, just slightly less than 1/8 of an inch, because I think I need to get in pretty tight on some of these places. So I've got it set at full speed. I've got my little cordless DeWalt, and let's turn the lights on. Here we go. So I don't see any reason to do all those letters. I'll just do those letters there. So here is my next step. After I get that cut done, I think that cut is deep enough, unless you go nuts with your sander, I think that cut is deep enough that you won't sand those letters out if you have a light touch with your sander. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to reset my bit, and I'm going to go, I don't need to go quite 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to go a little over 3/16 deep, and I think that will give me a nice wide cut, and I'll show you how that works. Okay, so from that, what I want to explain is the misconception that some of you may have is that when I do that buffer zone that I'm coming right up to the edge of the letter, but that's not the case. That's what Mickey had thought, that I was coming right up next to the letter and trying to get rid of these little ridges. I don't know if you can...
I'm trying.
Yeah, but you can see that I'm not in the same cut, my original cut that I was in. I'm just next to it, so I take away anything that might show up as a wide spot or a white spot when I sand it off. So the buffer zone is literally just makes another wide line around there, so that when I come, and I'll show you that in a minute, when I come in with my background bit, that I'm not so likely to nick those letters. That's something that I don't think I talk about enough. Now, like for instance here, you can see that I didn't get quite close enough there, so that's something I want to get rid of, so that it doesn't come up a white spot when I go to sand. But even if it did, that's fixable, but this is how I normally take care of it. Now this in here, I'll use the background bit, my 90 degree, which is what I'll do next, and I'll put a background around these, and you'll see that it gives me extra room to get around there. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, these are, it depends on how, basically, how anal you are on how close you want to get into those tight corners. Some of those tight corners you could use, I wouldn't use, but you could use if for instance you wanted to get that little area and these little sharp inside points, you could use the carving liner bit. I don't, because I just don't feel it's that necessary to get that close and have all of those little areas. I need to kind of touch that up. I'm going to let that go. I normally would touch that up. I went a little bit wide there. I'd go back and touch that up. But my point is, you could, if those things bother you, you could use a carving liner. I never do, because I don't feel it's that necessary. It still looks like the letters that they're supposed to be, and they're pretty close in what I want them to be. All right, so now I have got the 90 degree bit in. Looks like we're going to get this all done in one scene. The 90 degree bit in, and I'm just shy of 1/4 of an inch on that, and I'll do my standard cloud background on these letters. Hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing there. Here we go. So you can see, let me turn this around. This, by the way, is a piece of that shiplap. I think it's blue pine. Anyway, I love carving this stuff. It's like butter. So you can see that this, my background bit and my buffer zone didn't come clear up to the edge, but it makes no difference. Once this is sprayed, whatever color you're going to go, normally I go black, but once it does, it just does it. This fact that it's got a ridge around here, I think adds a little bit to it. The mistake that Mickey was having, and maybe some of you others, is thinking that this and the profile bit, your second cut, needs to come right up to the edge, but it's just not necessary. It just doesn't. You can see that that looks just fine. And the fact that there's a second cut here outside of that original cut really doesn't make a difference at all. So that is pretty much the idea of the whole buffer zone. Now, if you are, I did my buffer zone with the profile bit here, but that doesn't mean that you, well, anyway, I'll set this here and then we'll come back up to me. That doesn't mean that you have to use the profile bit to make your buffer zone. There have been times where I've had big outset letters, like on, I think I found a video earlier. It was an old video, number 26, where it said Sundance Station. It was big, I think 6-inch Western letters. On signs like that, I don't know whether that one, because our photography wasn't that great back then, but there have been many times where I've used the 90 degree to do a buffer zone if you're doing big outset letters or even big inset letters and going on the inside of the cut rather than on the outside of the cut. Just so, like on a lot of big signs that I've done in the past, I've used a big 3/8 or 1/2 inch V-groove bit, 45 degree V-groove bit, or a 90 degree V-groove bit, where I'm taking out a lot more. I don't think I have one in front of me right now, but it's basically like our regular 90 degree, but it's a bigger version of that. It's big, like 3/8 or 1/2 inch wide. A lot of times on big signs, I'll use a big bit like that, so it's not so tedious, so I can take out more material at a time. If I'm doing that, then I probably would go around all of those outset letters with my 90 degree regular 1/4 inch 90 degree, the one that I just used right there. That way I can swing big with that big cleanup bit or big background bit. I can swing big with it and not have to worry about nicking those letters. So it's just a bigger version of what I did here. So don't think that the buffer zone always has to be done with the profile bit. It doesn't. If you're making big signs, you probably want to do a buffer zone with your 90 degree bit. Anyway, and on those big outset letters, you won't be going 1/8 of an inch deep like I did on these 1 inch. You'll be going probably a full 1/4 of an inch, so it'll cut wide enough that when you go around it with your 90, then it'll give you a big fat wide buffer zone. Again, it'll probably be sprayed black if it's anything like I do, or it'll be sprayed some kind of color, whatever. And then you can go in with your big background bit. So I'm kind of hoping that I caught everything here. If you guys have any questions on this, please let me know. Mickey, thank you so much for bringing this up, because, and you guys, I want you guys to do the same. If there's something that you're not clear on, that maybe you see an old video, but you haven't seen a modern version of that and the photography isn't really good, like we have now, then please let me know, because maybe I need to redo that. I did that on the Live to Ride signs, or the biker signs, the Live to Ride. I did a whole series on those way back when, early on, but then I redid them about a year or two ago, and it made a huge difference. It's much better. So always look for the latest videos in whatever subject you're looking for. Anyway, guys, I'm getting long-winded and I'm starting to run out of breath. So thank you so much for watching. We so appreciate you guys watching, liking, subscribing, all of that. Please leave us a comment. Please email me directly, eric@makeawoodsign.com, if you have any questions on this or anything else. We love you. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.